And welcome back, everybody, to Double Down with Breslo, where we cover everything in the sports betting industry. And we love to cover companies that are expanding the industry, innovating in the industry. And we've got one of them today. That's Aaron Basch joining us. He's the co-founder and CEO of SPARKET right here in Los Angeles. As you can see, he's got his Dodger uniform on. He also plays second base for the Dodgers, and he's heading to the game right now. So we'll try to get through this quickly and let you get out on the field for batting practice, Aaron. Thanks for joining us.
There we go. Yeah, thanks for that introduction.
So, so tell us about SPARKET, and you better start by describing pari-mutuel. I think all of our listeners understand pari-mutuel, but pari-mutuel, most people relate to the horse race industry, which is a dying industry, but it's a method of betting that's always been used in horse racing, and you're choosing to apply it to a whole new industry.
That's all. Yeah, well said. So SPARKET came from sports market. We wanted to help expand the industry. Went out to Vegas 2020 now, and started talking to some of the operators out there about esports. I'm a big gamer, my background, been in fantasy sports for a long time with my co-founder. So we love the aspects of that, wanted to see how it applies to video games. And it was legal to start betting on there, but they didn't know how to price it. And they didn't want to take the risk on pricing it with fixed odds. So that was some of the initial inertia of getting this going and starting a pool wagering system, also known as pari-mutuel, so we could help expand into things like esports and other verticals. We quickly found out that the sports books had the appetite to use it for other things, like expanding the quarterback pool for who's going to throw a touchdown first on an NFL Sunday and offering that as a pari-mutuel. We started using it for golf events where we hosted golf tournaments, drone races, cornhole tournaments, pickleball, you name it. And so it really helped the operator have these additional events without having that same risk type as you would in a fixed odds bet, and still offer that for those customers.
Right. So you're saying it started with esports, right?
That's what our vision was initially, is finding a solution for that. And yeah, we did some esports tournaments, some Super Smash Brothers, Call of Duty, things like that. And then we quickly learned that it was applicable to other things as well.
So help people understand, or including me, exactly how pari-mutuel works, because even though I've been going to horse tracks since I was probably, got a lighting problem here. I've going to racetracks since I was 5 years old, and betting the ponies through my dad. We had a Christmas tradition too of day after Christmas going to Santa Anita every year. So part of the Breslo Christmas tradition was the racetrack. But whenever it always starts with something. There's like the morning line in horse races, right? And that's, I guess, just kind of set by a handicapper that's just kind of guessing where it will end up. And then once you start getting wagers is when the line starts moving. But none of it is set until the actual race goes off. So at the time you place the bet, you might think you're getting the horse at 5-1, and he may go off at 3-1.
Yeah, or he could go up the other direction as well.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. We like to think about it in a simpler way of, like a poker game, right? Where you're playing the cards against the other players in the pool. The house is there to make sure it's a fair, safe game. They take a rake, and it's usually a much lower rake than, doing a fixed odds bet. And yeah, exactly. The line is usually set. We have some patents depending on what we have for projecting lines and morning odds for things like esports, pickleball, unknown data points. We can start setting those lines. We partnered with a group called Alt Sports Data, for example, that does the World Surf League, and they do Street Skateboarding League. And we're starting to use some of their data to feature those event types in a pari-mutuel setting, because we think with these event types where it's kind of unknown, we want to help the crowd power what the true odds should be of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately the market's going to determine it, which is really true with fixed odds also, because the line moves in fixed odds. The only difference is you get the line, you keep the line that at the time that you bet, but at the end of the day, it's the market that decides it. And same thing with pari-mutuels, it's the market that decides it. But again, as far as where you set it to begin with, before anybody's placed a bet, is this what you're saying? You guys have a patent that you filed for on that?
Correct. At the I think it was filed in June of 2020. So we've had it out for a while and waiting for it to be finalized here. And it's an example of how we can do it is the odds are unknown, but there's some data that we can find from the crowd. So we crowdsource the data from social media, other sites like that, on historical events in those, whether it's the World Surf League or these, skateboarding leagues, pickleball. I keep using the same examples, but worldwide wrestling, anything like that, Bachelorette. We're doing reality television type events, America's Got Talent. So, there's historic somewhat out there. Social media is just not tracked the same way it has been on, with the NFL.
Right. So give us an example of something you've done recently and how you guys set the starting line. Give us I'm a pickleball player, so we can start with pickleball.
Yeah, I mean, on something like that, if you're having a tournament at your local pickleball club, we would just maybe even start with a evenly seated amount, or we'd poll the players beforehand. We have a way to do that within our software and see who would they think should be the best odds. So really relying on the crowd, kind of democratizing those betting pools.
So are you guys really providing this tool for a little friendly tournament like that?
We've done it with local country clubs where we offer them that as a pari-mutuel style of betting. We've done it for free to play style. We've done it where it's like a 50-50 raffle style where, half of it's going to charity and other half of it can go to prizes based on the leaderboard. So we have different variations of how we've worked with folks depending on, the state and the legal, regulatory situation that's going on there.
So tell us about the legal landscape out there when you're talking about pari-mutuel betting on things like this.
Yeah, I mean, there's 36 states and counting that allow legalized sports betting now. So we are a B2B provider in that sense, where we're working with operators in those states to start allowing these new event types to come on board. And then even in the states that don't allow this, like California, where both of us are, right, we have free to play. So you can get incentivized to play. And there's also fantasy sports where you can do some games for real money. So there's kind of 3 different layers here where the pari-mutuel style can add different event types and new content to the pie.
Mm-hmm. And where does just the local club pickleball tournament fit in to all that?
So we offer that to them for usually helping to raise money or engagement, offer some really, very low service costs to let them use the software. And, it's similar to if you're offering a home poker game, right? If you are playing amongst yourselves, you're betting on yourselves, usually there's no issues. As soon as you start taking a rake, that's when there can be some problems. So we don't, we just stay out of the money side of that in those instances.
But if this particular club was in a state that allowed sports betting, could they theoretically allow betting therefore on their little local tournament?
100%. And I think, we've seen that a little bit in the golf industry. And yeah, I think that's, we have even people asking us about doing their cornhole tournament in Washington State because that became legalized up there. So working on some things on that.
So yeah, I mean, some of it depends on how sports was defined in the place that it was approved. We've talked quite a bit about esports on this show, and I know that not every state allows betting on esports, right? Because it's just not part of the definition of sports.
Right. And I think, the way they price the esports and how they bet on esports now is a little bit old fashioned. Personally, I think they're taking the European model and trying to apply it here. And I think that's actually one of the things that we do better is we can do it on the individuals that are streaming as opposed to these like professional leagues. And so a lot of the content that's being consumed is usually based upon the streamers playing in these events, not necessarily on the pro matchups where a lot of the betting impact is kind of focused right now.
So in other words, you're really expanding what you can bet on when it comes to esports.
Exactly.
Yeah. But in these states that don't allow it, then also bars you guys. It state doesn't expressly permit betting on esports.
Correct. And then we'd offer it in a free to play setting where you're playing for prizes or other kind of ways to, still get that data, get that engagement. It's really in the end of the day, about fun, right? You mentioned when you're a kid betting at the horse track with your dad, and you don't really know a ton, right? You're just like, oh, I love that horse's name. Like, I want to get in on this action. Even if you're betting $1, you can win
No,
it,
hold on.
a big bet,
My
So,
dad taught me to read the racing form at a very young age. So no, I was not betting
oh,
on
good.
names and colors. No, no, no.
There you go. You had a leg up already.
Tell me this, by the way, how is sports essentially defined in the various states that allow sports betting? In other words, is pickleball and cornhole included based on how they define sports?
It's yeah, and that's what is crazy is that every single state has different legislation. So some include, all of it except college sports, right? That's I know a tricky topic. Some include all of the college sports except what's in their state. Some of them have every sport available, like, ping pong in Korea, and some of them just have, what's the major kind of top 10 out there.
Uh-huh. And what do you see as the most common model that a state has, that it's very broad, or more specific, like, professional American sports?
I think, you start with Vegas is in New Jersey. We're kind of the first two that started legalization, obviously. And so they have, I'd say a mid-range of professional sports that are known. They have the American Gaming Association, where they have a lot of regulation around it. So there's not going to be too much match fixing and odds move and, things like that are legal. And so I think that's where kind of the benchmark is and where it starts. And then you have some states that are, a little more conservative, and some that are, a little more interested in doing kind of everything that's out there.
So I presume that creates a legal issue for you guys. Again, I'm going back to the club putting on a golf tournament, and you guys offering your services to them, but it's just a bunch of amateurs going out there to play golf, and here you guys are allowing people to bet on it. Is that permissible in most of these states that allow sports betting?
So yeah, I mean, the ones that we do it in, we have a legal, whole compliance and legal team that has gone through each state and mapped out which things are allowed, and that's actually changing too, right? So as regulators are learning more, they're letting more and more become legalized. But we have whole, essentially a roadmap on where we can offer free to play versus where we can offer prizes versus where we can offer the 50-50 style versus where we can take, a service fee instead of a commission, or where we can offer, the full product, full markets.
Mm-hmm. And where are we on things like the reality shows and the Oscars and that type of thing?
Are the reality shows are they're definitely in the free to play space on the reality TV, but still provides incentives for people to play on their websites, and we've seen some traction there, where then people go play other things since they've played on the reality TV game, and I think eventually some of those will be for real money, and the Oscars are actually allowed to bet on, I think, in 6 states right now.
Okay.
So some of them have it.
So and then walk us through free to play. Why would how does free to play work?
Yeah, essentially you either have a way that you earn coins from signing in every day, or you can sometimes purchase more coins in certain instances, so then it's like a freemium model. But if you invite friends, you can get coins, things like that. They give you incentives, and then you're using those coins to make bets or play slot machines or other things on these iGaming platforms. And as you win, a lot of times they'll give you rewards in-house into these casinos to bring people into their brick and mortar and get them to play more, right? So just more engagement, essentially.
Gotcha. And bottom line, you guys are just providing the tools for these sites to do this. How they choose to do it is kind of up to them.
Correct. And certain places want to focus on localized sports, and certain ones want to do the national sports, right? So it kind of depends on the market.
Okay, well, let's take our one break, and then when we come back, I want to kind of hear from you where you think this is going. Where is this really going to make a difference on, and as far as which sport and so on. So we'll be back after the break with Aaron Basch, co-founder and CEO of SPARKET.
Hi everyone, I'm Veronica Dudo, and welcome to Buy,
Hold, Sell. If you have the Russians that are going into Ukraine, the Americans and the Germans and everyone else in Europe is going to say, hell no.
If Russia doing things, logically was their MO, I'd agree with you. Yeah, Todd, why don't you get him on a phone call right now? Hello, you.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about
Stop
you know
it.
what today where I'm gonna go
Yo.
topics.
Roll it down. I am.
You don't need a call to listen to Sirius XM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on Sirius XM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
And welcome back, everybody, to Double Down with Breslo. We're talking with Aaron Basch, the co-founder and CEO of SPARKET, who's bringing pari-mutuel wagering to sports betting. We've talked already about a lot of the kind of, more obscure sports that this allows betting for. Tell me what it does for the more mainstream sports like football, for instance.
Yeah, so that was one of our initial clients' first requests. Is they want to have a which quarterback is going to go throw a touchdown in the first quarter of their game, where you're picking, 2, 3, 4, and you have to get it exactly right. And, any given Sunday, you got probably 30 quarterbacks playing, given the bye weeks or not, but, it's a pretty big pool to set up. And if you offer that in a pari-mutuel style, if you hit some pretty big bet there, you can end up with a big payout. There's pretty low risk for the operator to offer it because they're offering it pari-mutually. So they can offer these new expanded event types and almost in a parlay type style without having to do that kind of same bet.
Yeah. I mean, one issue is they need to make it very clear to the bettor, however, that, this line is not set until the event goes off, right? So even though it appears that you might be getting this quarterback at 8-1, that could change. And for a lot of people who aren't familiar with, placing bets on horses, that's kind of a new concept for them.
I agree. Yeah. And I think, for a lot of gamblers in general, they are usually used to fixed odds types bets. But I think in this case, because the payouts are pretty high and these are usual, casual bet types, they're okay with the lines moving slightly. And, for the most part, we're expecting lots of, smaller, low volume bets as opposed to people coming in and, placing massive bets on these types of bets, if that makes sense.
Right. And how quickly are they adjusting it? I mean, typically, again, I'm just thinking back to being at the track and seeing the odds updating every minute or so. But, a single big bet that comes in on one quarterback, for instance, can really change the numbers. So how is that going to work for you guys?
Great question. Ours is actually instantaneous, and as you're placing the bet, it actually shows how your bet impacts the line. So pretty cool. As you're moving, if you're betting 100 and then you put another 0 and you add the 1,000, right? You see like, oh, that moved the line, 0.03 or whatever the number is, and so exactly what what it is when you're placing it. You can monitor it. We have some systems in place too. It is like a marketplace, so you can get notified if the odds move too high or too low, so you can place more bets before the market's closed, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Is it important to have a large amount of liquidity when you're talking about pari-mutuel?
It is. I think, liquidity is important, or, it's going to end up being a little bit more, I guess, easier to move the lines. But in the cases where we think there's low liquidity, we can also start the pools with some initial amounts in them from the operator's side as well. So they've offered to do that in some instances as a way to oftentimes hedge some of their other positions as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, right now, in part because of all the competition, you're seeing more and more prop bets, more and more in-game bets, micro betting, etc. So you kind of wonder, I mean, what are you guys allowing betting on in football, for instance, that otherwise the books are just afraid to touch?
Yeah, I think it's some of these bigger pool pick'em contests that it's just harder for them to price, where they don't want to waste the time pricing it when they can just set these pools up, and it's just pricing themselves. It self sets. We have some other things within the patent that is based on AI driven. So as people are playing more and more in our system, they get their own kind of recommended picks to keep playing in our system as well. So really
So have you
helping
guys
to
actually, and I don't know how long you've been around. I mean, have you actually offered this during a football season yet?
we've done it. We did it last year in a weekly capacity. So every week we offered pari-mutuel pools for prizes with a couple different clients where they saw 50% on-site redemption. So pretty high for what they were hoping for, and acquired a lot of new users for them while we're running the programs.
Mm-hmm. And what about with some of the, have you guys have any deals with the big traditional sports books, the MGMs of the world?
So we are working with Station Casinos right now. They're one of our bigger clients. We are live on their Station Play site. So if you go on their site, you can see some of the pools we have available. I think we have a Mookie Betts pool available tonight. So is he gonna hit a home run or not? I don't know.
So is Mookie Betts going to hit a home run tonight? So will you actually do one where it's just yes or no?
Yeah, we run those as well. So, the lines can move based on just a regular marketplace, right?
Yeah. Well, it also provides, yet another option for players. If people are out there shopping lines, for instance, this is a whole nother thing to shop for, right?
Exactly. I think it's a way to hedge what's out there. Eventually we envision a way where as users play enough over time, they can create their own, markets for hedging their own types of bets. They invite, other users that are in their social bet works to play with each other. That's one of our trademarks, is the social bet work. And so that helps us kind of eventually build this out over time so that players are playing with their friends and their communities, betting on these pools with each other, similar like that poker game style.
And how much do you set up for the house take on this?
That's really up to the operator. I think typically they're looking at offering this at a much lower rate, as low as 2-5%, somewhere in that range. Whereas traditional sports, it's 10+% parlays. It's, sometimes in the 20s. So imagine if you're getting the same odds, but they're only taking out 2% versus these 20% parlays. As the consumer, this is a much better deal.
Yeah. Well, in horse racing, I think it's even higher because you got all the overhead costs. So I think they're taking out like 25%.
Exactly.
So how does a player know what's being taken out?
Oh, that's just transparent, within the rules on the immediately within the pool.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about for it strikes me a golf tournament seems like kind of an obvious place you could use, before the event starts, betting on who's going to win the tournament.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with, a lot of these golf clubs and things like that, they already have their handicap set up and the management systems. We're actually integrated with Golf Genius. So clubs that are using that software, which a lot of them do, we just grab the handicaps, player names, teams, comes all into our system, set up the pools automatically for them. And that actually helps with the initial pricing if they want to do anything like that.
So if I'm a golf club out there right now, I got a tournament coming up. Is there a website I can already go to right now and just do it all? No telephone conversations. I'm just plugging in information and starting my tournament, or starting my pari-mutuel wagering on the tournament.
Yeah, not quite getting there.
That's really where you want to be.
Sure. Yeah, I think democratizing these into these bet works is really what we're trying to do, so that anyone can have these pools at their their pickleball club, their tennis tournament, their local bowling league, golf, anything, right?
Yeah. So as far as what the secret sauce is, it sounds like that's one of the great angles of this, and the other is, as kind of newer sports come online, such as a pickleball, these sports books don't know how to set the lines for these things. Pari-mutuel, they have nothing to worry about. You can put anything up there because all you're doing is taking a piece.
Yeah, and I think as we started at the beginning with the esports example was one of those first things where it's like Fortnite got popular overnight and then it was huge, and then all of a sudden it's gone and something else is huge, right? And so especially in that industry, it's important to have this kind of platform to be able to offer that, because it could become quickly available and immediately want to be priced and bet on.
Right. But eventually, as those things become mainstream, then fixed odds could take over. So how does that affect your guys' long-term strategy?
ultimately our goal actually is really to come in as a partner to the industry. I don't want to cannibalize anything that's happening with their, traditional sports. We're really here as to be in the front runner and focus on these long tail of events that are out there. And, if it becomes so popular that we prove that the data on it means that it should have fixed odds, that means I'm winning somehow. I'm not going to worry about that.
Mm-hmm. And any other things that you think you guys are going to open the door to as far as things to bet on that people aren't even thinking about right now?
Yeah, for me, I think the streaming industry in general is really interesting because you see it in esports where it's tied to this game. But I just think the idea of, these streamers being able to get out there and do real life events and in front of an audience that they already have baked into their system, why not be able to be betting on certain life events that they're involved on that, we can't probably think of yet, but whatever, some guy's at a carnival and he wants to play the carnival game. He's got his audience betting on, is he going to win this carnival game right now?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Anybody streaming on any of the various channels, anybody who's got an audience essentially can now suddenly allow some type of wagering on whatever the guy's doing essentially, right? You can.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point that's the future there. So yeah. Might be a little early on that in some states, but we'll see what happens in 5-10 years.
So right now, all of it is partnerships. If people want to take advantage of what you're doing, I guess is the question. Where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, our website is betsparket.com. We do partnerships for, like I said, country clubs, golf tournaments, pickleball. We do things for casinos. We do things for sports books, iGaming platforms, integration, white label solutions, really kind of the full gambit of software solutions to make sure that users can engage in some sort of betting capacity.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll let you get to batting practice and tell everybody, though, what's your money on tonight? Mookie Betts, getting a home run, that's a tough bet. How about does Mookie Betts have over under one hit tonight?
Yeah, I like him for a hit. He's Mookie.
Yeah, he's been injured, though. Is he playing tonight?
I think so.
Not the last couple games.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you squeezing us in, and we'll let you go hit that Dodger game. And thanks for coming on Double Down. We'll have everybody go check out SPARKET. Aaron Basch, CEO and founder of SPARKET. Thanks for coming on Double Down.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, and thank you all for watching and listening. We'll be back soon with another episode. Take care.
I want you to smash that like button.